Hello, welcome back to Seeds of Self-Love. Today I have Cheri Yazzie, and she's amazing. I worked with her a few years ago in mentoring and business and coaching. She's a self-love coach, perfect guest for Seeds of Self-Love, working with helping people reconnect to self-love, happiness, and those great qualities. This is her soul work. I'm feeling the tingles in my body already. I wanted her on this show because even though the program I was in with her was not specifically about self-love, in my opinion, it's hard. You can't be around Cheri without feeling more loving towards yourself. And it comes out all the time. And she's also the founder of the Happiness Habit, which I'm so sure we're going to hear more about. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm really excited that you invited me, and I love to talk about self-love. So basically, someone's like, hey, you want to come talk about that? I'm like, yes, I'm there. I'll pull up.
Oh, good. So if you're listening and you have your own podcast channel, whatever, you heard she's ready. She's there.
Absolutely.
So I have a little remembering. That's like a remembering and a memory combined.
I like it.
of how this arose into what it is for you now. And I would love to know, how did you get so dedicated to self-love, or what was the process or the choice where you thought, I'm going to do this for myself and now for all the rest of us too?
Great question. Thank you. Well, it started with my son was about 8, and he's currently 16 now. And I realized that I was modeling this depressed, struggling to get out of bed. Like that life was hard and awful. And he was such a bright, bubbly, happy light. And I was like, I'm the biggest threat to this light that I've decided that was my job to protect. It was one of my purposes in life when he came to the world, because he was just such this bright light. And I wanted him to get all the way to adulthood with that light intact. And I remember one day, so we traded off. My husband would go to sleep with him and then take him to school the next day. And then the next day would be my turn. Well, it was his day to take him. And I'm laying there in bed, and I didn't get out of bed until it was time to get Mateo from school. That's my son. And I was just struck by, this is my life and I don't like this. And I definitely don't want him to think this is what life should look like. Yeah. No clue I could even love myself. That was not even on the table at the time. I just decided I was going to find a way to be happy. And I didn't even know if it was possible, but I was like, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try for myself. I'm going to try. I didn't even do it for me. It was all for him. And I did so many different things, all different kinds of events, therapy, read books. I did EMDR. I did belief work. I did so much stuff. And through it, it was the best surprise. As I started to feel better, I started with gratitude. That was really where I started. Gratitude was the thing that had me get out of the pit enough to start doing the work. Because when you're in the pit, it's real hard. You're at your lowest low, and people are like, love yourself. And you're like, fuck you. I'm barely breathing here.
You're like, I love my pillow. That's about it. And maybe not even a pillow some days.
Yeah, I can't, and so gratitude pulled me out of the pit. And then some of the work I was doing around practicing happiness, things I just started putting in my day, because the thing that it's really cool about humans is there are certain activities that we can do that have us feel happier, no matter what's happening. Yes, sometimes the shit hits the fan, sometimes the waves are really, really stormy, but there are certain activities that will always pull us to feeling better. And I started putting those in. I started doing them daily. And as I did that, that's when I started really looking at the work, the underneath work. As I got to a place where I was steady, I was secure. That's where really I started looking at the beliefs that were really holding me up. And I had 3 core beliefs that were screwing up my whole life, because they're riding in the back seat, making decisions with me without me even knowing they're making the decision. And it was, I'm unlovable. God hates me, and life is hard.
Mm.
And when those are the beliefs that ride in your back seat making decisions for you, that's what shows up for you. You have proof, more proof that you're not lovable, more proof that life is hard, and more proof that God hates you. It was a really hard life to live. And when I understood that these beliefs they weren't the absolute truth, even with all of the proof I had, like, it took, but as I was doing this, I started working on my beliefs. And one of the biggest ones is that I'm lovable as fuck. That was the belief. And now it's such it's a pivotal knowing in my whole life. My whole life revolves around this one belief now. And people tell me they love me. I get it's really interesting. Like, life started lining up, looking like that once I really shifted the belief. And then it's easier. All of those things that I had put in place, like all the things, it's like, okay, I need to get up and do my morning routine, and I need to do this, and I've got to do my gratitude. A lot of that eased off, because when the fundamental beliefs, the beliefs riding in my backseat now are, I'm lovable as fuck. God loves me because I'm fucking wonderful. And life is amazing. Those are the beliefs back there making decisions for me that I'm not conscious of. And so life lines up in these, it's just different, like in this magical way that I would never have thought before. And not being able to get out of my bed turned into popping out of bed, excited to live my life, grateful to experience my family, loving what I do in my work. And it all came from that shift. It started with the happiness, which then moved into the deeper work, which was definitely loving myself. So that's how I got here.
I love that. I want to pause for a minute, because I know you're in a different place now, but I can feel the intensity of the emotions. And I'm also thinking somebody watching might still be in that pit, and it might, I know both of us want to acknowledge that it's a weird irony of, when you're in the pit, the I'm unlovable feels really true. And then sometimes the fact that you don't love yourself also makes you not love yourself more. It's almost like, oh, look at me, I can't even love myself. That just proves I'm unlovable. And it almost is like this weird spiral in our heads that we can get into. And whether or not, I don't know if every person goes through a dark period. I know I've had dark periods, and there were different voices in my back seat, but I think you're right, how over time you can develop the beliefs and have the habits to get to another place, and it transforms so that I believe what you're saying, and it's hard for me to believe you were ever that person, because I've only known you as this person, and the person who is, like you talk about your son, so full of light, so full of love. You're the lovable AF person. Like, that's just how I think of you. And it also goes to show a few things of like, when you put in that work, it not only benefits you and your son and all these other people who may or may not ever know you, like people who, because is your podcast, I don't know if you still do it, but I know you had a Lovable AF podcast. So it's like people who you've probably never even met might be going through some of these things that you're leading them to and feeling the love. So anyone is lovable, even if you're in that pit.
Yeah. And it definitely, it's like, it can become this guilt thing. Like, I'm not taking care of myself and I'm not doing this. And then we focus so hard right there that it perpetuates it more. And for me, I really believe that one of the best ways is to start practicing gratitude, or start practicing building your happiness capacity. Because the thing is, our stress capacities, our fear capacities, those are usually pretty well developed. A lot of stuff is in the world, and we're like, that we were good at those. But the deal is, it's the same thing as like working your muscles out. If your stress capacity is your legs and you're walking all the time, you're going to be so strong. But if you never use your arms, and that's your happiness capacity, they're going to start not being able to, you won't even be able to lift your arm. And that thing is, people don't get that. So
Yeah.
you can be in the pit, you can be
Mm-hmm.
feeling awful, but if you start building the happiness muscle, then over time you'll look back. It's more of a look back thing where you're like, oh,
Yes. Right.
wow, I do feel better more often. And yes,
Mm-hmm.
once you hit a certain area, then it's easier to take on really caring for yourself, really looking at what your beliefs are. The healing work that has it so that it's not such a heavy lift every day to move from fear into love.
Yes. Right. Yes. I'm thinking of a few years back. I was in a pit, maybe not the depth of yours, but it was a low point for sure. And my husband, he was concerned about it. And he doesn't usually critique me much. And so the fact that he was saying something, I was like, oh, this is a problem then. And I also knew it was a problem, but then when he said it, I thought I need to do something. So I set out to shift a few things. And one of the things that I shifted was there were people and places I was going and being around that weren't like a hell yes. They were just like it's okay. Like I'm not by myself. I'm with people because I love to be around people. I love to be in community. And I'm also the kind of person I've realized that I'm much better off if I'm around people who I really enjoy. And the more I'm around people who feel blah ho hum about me, I feel like it starts to rub off. And so that was one of the first things I did was I'm not saying yes or going to these things unless I'm literally required to be there, unless it's people who I really want to be around. And there were a few other things I did too, but that one thing I felt like it's still my happiness habit of if I realize, oh, I thought I would like this book club or this class, but nobody in the group, I'm not jiving with them because community is such a core value for me. Then I say, that's fine. Like, I'm just moving on. It doesn't mean bad things about either one of us, but for my happiness, I got to be around people, like you say, you got the people who are loving you around you. I need that community that is engaging with me in a way that lights me up because that's one of my things that helps me stay in a better mood. Do
Yeah,
you
no,
think
that's beautiful.
yeah, does that resonate or I don't know what your happiness habits are. I definitely want to hear some. But do you think that impacts it too or do you ever encourage people to look at who they're spending their time with as one of the habits?
Uh, so I think of that as a really fundamental thing. So what happens if our family of origin, the family we were born into, or the family we were raised inside of, if they don't get our unique genius in a way that they not only love us, but are like, I don't, the words evading me, but it's like where they really delight. That's the word. They
Mhm.
delight in us. Now,
Yes.
because like I talked about my son's bright light, it's bright light. It's incredible. And but there are people he bumps into sometimes who really don't get his magic. Like he kind of rubs them the wrong way. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this has been happening to me my whole life. I thought it was me. Like I thought I was like abrasive but no,
Mm-hmm.
just some people don't get my magic, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
I can swim, but they're looking for someone to climb a tree, I'm not the
Yes.
person. And they
Yeah.
delight in the people climbing the tree and think the swimmers are not great. And so
Right.
when that's what our world looks like, that's what we think. So we've got to go find the people who will
Mm-hmm.
delight in our
Yes.
uniqueness. And
Yes.
there are some lucky people who are born into families of origin that do that for them. And you'll see them in the world sometimes. And the confidence they walk with, the way they
Mm-hmm.
move through the world, you're like, what is your secret? And it's like that people delighted in them and they're trying to.
Yes.
But the good news is we can find people that delight in us now. And it can be the people who are around us who haven't, because at least for me, I had to lead the way. I
Yes.
had to start delighting in myself.
Mm.
And that is when, whether it was there already and I couldn't let it in, or people then did show up that way, my world now revolves around a lot of people being very delighted with me, which is so beautiful. I mean, and if it can happen for me, it can happen for anyone. We're talking about this idea of when you're in that pit, when you're really not there. And it can feel like, oh, well, she can do it because she has X, Y,
Right.
Z, right?
Yes.
And I just want to say, I mean, so I was diagnosed with depression when I was 16 years old. The first time I ever said out loud that I wanted to kill myself, I was 8 years old. I've had traumas, big traumas through my childhood, child of an alcoholic. And again, I just want people to know that you can come back from these things. And yes, the pit has so much more room to grow and so many horrible experiences to reinforce that you're not lovable and you're not worthy, and that, or someone would have taken care of you or someone would have protected you. But the reality is none of that's true. Like the experiences that I had and the lack of protection that I had, it had to do with them and their stories. The people in their back seats were worse, right? Like telling them horrible things and making awful decisions.
Yeah.
And so the more we can start to become the people that will always protect the other people, and in ourself, like ourself is the first person in that line. We will take care of ourselves. We will stand for us. We will lift ourselves up. But the more we do that, where we are the leader. And I know if you're in the pit, it's hard. It's a hard choice, but it is a choice. I would never have moved from that pit if I hadn't made that choice, even not knowing how to do it, that I was going to find a way to be happy. Like find your thing, make the decision, and then start taking some actions. I feel like it lines up. It might be difficult and it might be hard, but no harder than living a life that you are despondent in, that you do not enjoy, where you feel like you're failing all the time and you're screwing up all the time. Like my experience now lives at such a different place. People talk a lot about mom guilt and stuff. I'm like, I don't really have it anymore because I feel like I'm doing the things. Like I feel good about how I show up in this relationship, but it's only because I've done these foundational things back here. Like you don't just go from there to there in one jump. It takes time.
Yes.
So, but as far as the happiness habits themselves, they are very simple. So it's less than 10 minutes every single day. And I love it because I actually created it. Because here's the thing about happiness. We talked about it as a muscle. It doesn't matter how much work you've done. You can have done so much transformational work, but you'll notice life creeps in. The stress muscles are still getting built. And you can be like, oh man, I haven't practiced gratitude in like months. I haven't done that. I haven't been doing the things I know feel good and I'm feeling crappy. Why is that? Well, because we're not working out our happiness muscle. We're not building that capacity. So literally I created it to just be inside of everyone's life. And there are exercises, there's hundreds of them, but there's one every single day. It comes straight to your phone. I love them. And like today's, the one that I just recorded today was an act of kindness. So go out and do an act of kindness. Big, small, doesn't matter. But literally shifting our focus to how could I show up kindly with generosity today in maybe my marriage or with my children or my family or a friend or a stranger. It shifts how you show up throughout the whole day. So like, that's just one. There's meditations, there's all kinds of things, but I've just put everything in there that I know has humans feeling good, feeling better.
So. Oh, that's so good. When I was younger, I also battled with depression and suicidal thinking and those yucky feelings. And everyone listening knows that I use words like yucky, which maybe most adults don't, but I do. Because it feels less heavy than another word. But my mom told me when I was younger, either a teenager or early 20s, she gave me this advice that when I was really struggling, to go find someone else and help them. And I don't know if she phrased it exactly like this, but it was like, find somebody else who's kind of in a worse place than you. I don't remember how she put it, but like, find someone who needs your help that you can help. And that you're in a better place than them in some ways. And again, not to be judging where people are in life, but it's like when you're in the pits, you can feel like you're in the pits. And there is probably someone in your town or in your city who's maybe even in a worse situation. And so when I have done that, and it doesn't mean I'm going to a soup kitchen. I mean, that would be great if I did. That's not really my modus operandus. Like sometimes it's, I think, who are 5 people that I know that I could send a nice text to? Or I think of, oh, so and so that I know just lost their husband or their mom or whoever to, death or whatever. Send them a text and let them know I'm thinking about them. And sometimes it is volunteering or other things. I always find that when I do those, it brings me out of woe is me, my life is terrible, I'm terrible, to, it expands our perspective, I think. And when you help someone, you start to realize, well, you feel good because you helped them. That's supported by science. And it also, so you're both feeling better. And I think it breaks you out of the pattern of, I'm just sitting around feeling really badly. And then you have that moment of feeling better. And like you say, building it is so important. I meditate every day because I know that if I don't, I start yelling at my kids or my husband, and there's other things I do too. But like I have my pillars that I notice. It's not oh, I've put in 200 hours over the last so many years meditating, now I'm good. No, more stressful things are going to happen tomorrow or the next day, and I'm going to need to meditate today and tomorrow and the next day.
Yeah. And I'm with you there, because for me, what I found is I can meditate for a while, and then I kind of bored. I got to do something else. And so this is why, the happiness habit has a different thing every single day.
That's so cool.
It creates the variety. And then there are some things that we do fairly consistently to build the habit of doing those things, because again, like moving. And so everything inside of the happiness habit is all science backed. It's, getting out in sunlight. I mean, things that literally just help us physiologically as well as mentally, emotionally. So, and all of it has been tested by me for years, but is also comes from actual science. So I think that this is the journey, though, because if you think about it, there's so many ways we can move through the world, and there's things we're looking to succeed, or our goals we're looking to hit. But if we're not enjoying it during the ride, what is the point? Or we're waiting till we retire, or we're waiting till this happens. Like, I really don't believe there's an until. I just like, now is the time to enjoy it, right now. And that even when life is stressful, and I definitely am a testament to this, we've had lots of things happen from, like, actually last year or yesterday was our 5-year anniversary. We were in a major truck and trailer accident. We had sold our home. We were traveling the country, and a literal ton of bricks came unhitched from the truck in the oncoming swerved into ours, and we hit it head on.
Oh my gosh.
We're all very lucky to be alive. But even in that time, when boom, in a single second, our whole dreams of traveling the country, because we were hurt enough that we couldn't keep going, was gone in just a split second. Like, I used these same principles to pull us and carry us through. So it builds your resiliency, not only enjoying the good parts that are great, but it builds the resiliency for sometimes when the shit literally hits the fan, or the bricks literally hit the truck.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because you didn't have a home officially because you sold your home, or you moved, so how did you decide, okay, did you settle down somewhere to heal and mend and rebuild? Like, what were the first few days like, if you can remember and you want to share, to also help us see, like, this is what happens when the bricks hit the truck, and how do you build yourself up?
So there was a lot of crying in the first days. I mean, just tons. We all cried so much. I mean, they towed the trailer with our stuff to a junkyard in the truck. And then we got a ride from a Good Samaritan to a hotel that they had a single night room. And because we were supposed to be at a campground in Washington. Like we had it all booked and everything.
Right.
And I will say one of the things for me that was the most useful is since I had done so much work around learning how to be happy, learning how to be grateful, and learning how to feel good, I wasn't scared to let myself really grieve and really be
Yeah.
sad, because I
Yeah.
knew it used to be I would like, nope, no grief, no sadness. I'm not going to feel any of that because I might fall right down into the pit and never get
Right.
out.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, so that was one of the first things, is like knowing that I had the capacity. I really did allow myself to grieve, because the reality is sometimes bad stuff really does happen and we really do need to feel shitty about it. It did suck. I mean, truly sucked. And
Yeah.
it sucked for us all. And it was upsetting. It was hard. And like literally even just trying to make the decisions of, I mean, we were stranded and we were on the coast. There was no rental cars
Oh my
agencies. There was
gosh.
no, so we took a $300 taxi ride
Oh my gosh.
to get a rental vehicle. And I'm dealing with the insurance companies to try to get them to pay for it.
Right.
And we're at Instacare. And I remember the insurance guy's like, well, I know you're at Instacare because you're injured and you're thousands of miles away from home, but we're not going to cover that car. And I was like, what? And he goes, okay, we'll cover the car for 3 days.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, I think it was when he heard himself say it. So, but like
Yeah.
that, it was hard and it really did suck. And it was scary. Like it was really scary to keep driving. Like that was hard to get yourself back in the car. It was like there was a lot of trauma.
Yeah. And to be a parent talking to your kid, oh, hey, we don't know what's happening next, or this is what we think. And what are your feelings? Oh my gosh.
Yes. And
Yeah.
holding the space for him to be upset, for him to
Yes.
feel how he's
Right.
feeling. Yeah, 100%. And at the same time, like I said, we were all physically injured. I mean, we could all walk, which was great, but like we were
Yes.
all had actual physical injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And so dealing with actual physical pain along with that. So it was a lot, like it was a huge thing to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I mean, we consolidated our stuff. We had a house rented in Washington for a week. So we went to that house. And I remember that time was literally just being, like all of us. It was lots of crying, just dealing with the bruises and the pain and starting to get some like chiropractic care, stuff like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
it changes. I don't know. A lot of it was feeling the feelings and taking actions, like feeling the feelings,
Yeah.
taking actions, like, and intentionally taking them. And I remember we were sitting at a table at breakfast and we were like, okay, so we know kind of the extent of our injuries, that these injuries need to be treated pretty consistently for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So traveling is not really going to be great because you'd have to find
New
caretakers in every
Yeah.
place. We're like, okay, that's not going to work. And this was a conversation we had all together. And we agreed that the best thing for us would be to go back home to where we started, even though we didn't have a house there, because we did have caretakers here who were really good at what they did. And we knew that. And then we agreed that we would have a home base and then we would still travel once a month.
Wow.
So like all together as a family, we powerfully created this and we did it. We did it all through the rest of 2018 and in 2019.
Wow.
And that's what I will say is it's kind of like, but we kept focusing on that we were grateful to be alive. We were not to suppress the sucky feelings.
Right.
But to do that as well, right? Like, so you can, we're complex beings as humans.
Exactly.
We get to feel the full spectrum.
Yes.
But we could have just stuck inside, this sucks, our dream is dead, and this is awful, and why would God do this to us? And you know what I mean? Like it could have been more evidence that life was hard and like, right? But at the same time, it was like, okay, there must be some other thing here. And we're all so grateful to be alive. Like so very grateful. If I don't get to travel the country, my son is alive. Like I'll take that all day, every day.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I'm so glad you shared, because I have had points in my life, and I also know people who the emotion, they're so concerned that if they delve into the grief or the pain, it's so much that they might be encompassed or not find their way out. And it's amazing to hear. I don't feel like I'm that way now, but I can connect to it, and I do hear it quite often. And so knowing and hearing your process of knowing all the work you've done, you won't get stuck there because, well, one, your phone is going to ping you every day. Brush your teeth and drink a full glass of water. I don't know if it ever does that. Hey, water is good.
Water is good. Yes. And we do talk about that.
Yeah, go get some sunshine. And it's so you'll get back on track. And like you say, feeling the feelings, because no matter how much happiness and self-love we have, unexpected events will happen that need to be dealt with. And it gives you more capacity to have love and compassion going through that. And I think that's so powerful. So I'm really glad you shared that. And I'm sorry that it happened too, because it also sounds disappointing too, of having to deal with all of that. And like you say, the person on the phone who realized mid-sentence probably, wow, I'm being a terrible human being right now. Let me see what this company can actually do to help.
Yes. Yeah. And I would just say that the resilience of that brought me through the situation. So many times when we're like, we don't know what to do. What's the next choice here? What do we, and I would say that it building the foundation allowed me to have the resilience to be in the moment and actually be able to make positive decisions for us still, fight for us still, rather than just kind of, sometimes when we get kicked off into trauma, right? So a lot of people talk about this: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. We get into this response, and trying to make decisions inside of any one of those four is not going to give you the best outcome.
Right.
Put it like that. Like, if you're there, you're there. And I get it. Like, again, this isn't a way to pile on shame, but if you can work out a way to still hit those triggers, let the cycles complete so that you can actually then get on solid ground where you're making choices and decisions and fighting for what it is that you want, it does just change the whole experience of what happens.
Right.
It changes the actual results of what happens. And that I think was one of the biggest gifts. Was now I know that the work that I've done and the foundation that I've built, that resiliency has been proven over. Like, I've got this, you know what I mean? Like, it gave me this confidence that whatever comes at us, like, I can manage it. I can do it. And I feel like that's where, when we start really trusting ourselves, that yes, we might get triggered, we might have a trauma response or something, but we still can trust that we will still have our own backs. We will still be standing up for us, what we want, and working towards, getting that, having that. It just changes the faith, that everything doesn't have to go right for it to go well for us still.
And when I hear you talking about this, what it also makes me think of is, I think sometimes when people realize they need more happiness or more love, it feels like, this is a cushy thing, or a luxury, and isn't that nice? And yet I also think, if you want confidence and resiliency, like, this is the real deal way to build it. Yes, sure, you could go take some confidence class or practice public speaking or whatever, but you're only going to be so confident or resilient when the brakes hit the truck. And yet, if you've been practicing it, like you said, you really build this deep capacity of self-trust so that any situation you can handle, you can do it. And so it really gives you the best skills for life that you could ever wish for.
Yeah. I think I feel like I shout it like, this is the work. I promise this is the thing that changes everything,
Well, and I love too that it has the variety in your happiness habit, because I can stick with some of the same, like, I have my go-to things, but what I noticed when the pandemic hit and the from 2020 to 2022, let's say, for myself and other people, things that had worked for a time. Well, first in lockdown, you couldn't do all the things that worked. If you're an extrovert and going out is what, and so people had to change. And I noticed again and again, different people had to change. And the people who did, who were like, oh, this doesn't work anymore, let me find something new. That ability to adapt and find something new is so key, because if meditation or drinking, not that you're ever going to say drinking is probably one of the habits, but like if your go-to thing that you do suddenly doesn't work anymore, you need a few other things to try out and or do on a regular basis that do work. Because I also think rarely is it one size, one thing helps with everything. I love meditating, but I have to go out in nature when I'm annoyed with every single person in my household, or when I'm at my wit's end, I'm like, okay, I need to do some angry weeding in my garden. And that, like, meditating is not going to help me simmer, but going out and doing something physically in the sunshine with the plants and the soil, that works. And or going out dancing or laughing. So I love that it allows people to, as they're going through this, find what's their own combo of what works and stretch into things that are maybe outside what they would normally do, but which also really help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you brought up dancing. I mean, dancing,
Yeah.
moving our bodies is one of the biggest cornerstones, and that is absolutely in the happiness habit. We do that pretty much every week.
Oh, nice. I love that. Awesome. Well, what else that maybe we haven't touched upon, if anything, that you think, okay, we really got to talk about this before we start wrapping up?
I would say just like people who are watching, like, no matter where you are, you really can get to where it is you want to be. Like, if you have the desire is not there like to taunt you, right? Like, if you want to be happy, or if you want to feel absolutely like you are lovable as fuck, like, know it in your soul, that's totally possible for you, no matter where you've come from. And it really is, to me, it's a decision followed by consistent action. I mean, people make it very complicated, but
Yes.
that's literally all it is. Now, sometimes those actions vary and there's all kinds of, but there's lots of cool ways to do this. And that's one of the things I like. There's a lot of ways to get through this journey. There's lots of different ways to heal. There's lots of different ways to learn. There's lots of different ways to show up, but it's literally just the decision and then committed actions consistently, and not perfect. It's all practice. That's the one thing.
Yes.
I find a lot of people that, at least in my work, who they struggle with self-love, inevitably they have that overachiever syndrome. They want to do it all perfect.
Right.
And the thing I would want to leave people with is it's practice. Like, all of it, how we are in our relationships, how we are in our work, how we are in our businesses, how we are with our family. It's a practice. We never have to have it perfect, because anything can be cleaned up. Like, let's say we did yell at our kid, or we said something we didn't like. We can clean that up, right? And we can commit to doing it better. Like, we can actually, when I do it, I realize it's always a stop sign for me to go, hey, something's not working for you. Like, when you act in a way you're not happy with, that means there's something over here not working. Yes. And so I look and I'm like, oh, I have completely, this was before the happiness habit, stop dancing. I have not danced in like a month, 2 months. No wonder I'm like getting pent up and angry and ragey, because sometimes we do feel that rage. I mean, the reality is we're working inside of a world, especially those of us who have commitments around anti-racism work, LGBTQ plus allies, people like myself who are, like, I'm indigenous. So our experiences, I mean, like, it's a lot. Yeah. Lot that comes at you. And sometimes there is that rage, and that's okay too. Yeah. But also, if I stay in the rage, if I'm always in the rage, my life will have a certain quality to it that I actually don't want. I want to be one of those people that there's like, wow, she embodies indigenous joy. She's still fighting for what she believes in, and yet she seems to be enjoying the fuck out of her life. Like, that's
Yes.
my gig here. I want to,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't
That's
want the
good.
people fighting for the best changes in the world to be so miserable and so
Yes.
burned out,
Mm-hmm.
exhausted. And so
Yes,
it's just practice, though. All of it's
it
practice. It's
is.
no perfect.
Yeah, and it makes me think Sherry Huber, is she, I think she's a Buddhist. Anyway, I'll find out. She has this line, how you do anything is how you do everything. It's one of her books. And it makes me think about what you're saying, because again, back to the life process and the goals that you're aiming for. Every day that you're headed for this goal is another day, and how you're showing up in that day, all the days add together to be your life. When I was younger, I was getting involved with environmental groups because I really cared about the planet. I cared about deforestation and acid rain, and no one was talking climate change then, but still, like the issues to the region where I was. And I went to a few protests because my first thought was, this is what an activist does. And at the protest, I just felt like everyone was so angry, which I understood because we were. And yet I thought, I don't want to go somewhere where I'm yelling every day and I might get arrested. And it's just too much anger in my body. And what if I turn into someone that I don't even like anymore? And for me, and I value and acknowledge the people who do go to protests and actions and who do that piece of it. But what I realized really early is, if I want to be a part of a change, I have to find the part that also fits with who I am, and I can still stretch out of my comfort zone. And it's not like, don't do things you're uncomfortable with, but it's like, if I don't want to be the person every day holding the sign yelling, like, I would rather find another way. And there are enough ways. I think we live in a place, there's so many possibilities, similar to how there's so many different happiness habits. You can find a way to both work towards the things that are your goals or changes you want to make in the world, while you're still maintaining what creates a consistent happiness and place of love for yourself. It's doable. I mean, hey, look, we're two people doing that right now. And I love, to me, you are not only the epitome of the self-love coach, I also feel that your confidence is amazing. And in my mind, like, if there's anything that you say, oh, I'm going to go do this, I'd be like, Sherry's going to do it. She said she was going to do it. And I believe it. Like, that's one of the key things that I always think when I think of you. And it's a testament to this work. And also, I want to highlight again for people listening, you tried out different things. And I like that you didn't, and I don't know if it's that one or two didn't work, or you just had to keep on going until you found your right conglomeration of experiences that was good for you. But I think that's also good to know, because it's not, some people talk therapy, they go and they're like, great, I'm fine. Or they go to yoga and they develop a yoga practice and then they're good. But some of the rest of it's like, we got to fish around for a while and try out all different kinds of things till we find what works.
Yeah, I've definitely always been that way. And I feel like everybody, they that's the game, is figuring out what you like versus your happiness doesn't look like your neighbor's happiness or your mom's happiness or your kid's happiness. What makes you happy might not make me happy, but like, it's cool for us to get clear on what we actually enjoy and what we actually want in our lives, and then put them in day to day.
Yes, exactly. The minimalist would say, use the good dishes. And I always buy good chocolate and good coffee, even though it's starting to get quite expensive, the coffee. But I'm like, if this is something I'm drinking every day, I'm going to enjoy every cup.
100%. And I mean, enjoying ourselves, it does take practice. That's a muscle too.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say with the, as far as when we're standing for something bigger in the world, when we want something out there in the world, I would say it's crucial for us to feel good and
Yes.
act from there versus I know and this was why one of the reasons I started what I've started, because I didn't want to keep feeling like it's all about success or money or business. Like, cool, all that's great. And how are you feeling? Like day to day as you move through the world, how are you feeling as you accomplish this? Like, are you really taking care of that? Because that's the part that really there's no and then they lived happily ever after. That's not a thing for us. We don't ever have that. Like, that's not
there's still the morning after.
There's still other stuff that we're going to be doing and things that are happening. So like, how are we feeling? And I feel like no matter what your calling is, no matter what you're doing in the world, what you're up to, taking on your joy is a rebellion, because it's a rebellion from a kind of that we talked about, that colonialism, all these expectations to be perfect and to hustle and to make all the things and do. But what if we're just joyful?
Yeah.
And then we do the things that we feel called to do.
If I had a confetti creator, I would burst it right now. Maybe when I edit this, I can make confetti go all over the screen.
Nice.
Because that felt like a confetti moment to me.
Yeah.
And now she gets the Oscar.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this has been amazing. My heart is full and I'm inspired. And I'm sure everyone else listening is like, yeah. So tell us, where are the best places for people to stay in the loop with you on a regular basis?
Okay, so I am on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So Cheri Yazzie, it's a version of my name. Some of them have dots, some of them don't.
Okay.
My name is usually unique enough. You'll find me.
Yeah, and I'll have links below, but you can still say it out loud. I want people to hear it.
And then loveableaf.com is my website, all the different ways to work with me from the Happiness Habit, which is only an $8 a month membership.
Ooh, that's a good price.
I know.
I can be happy about that price.
Yes. I want it accessible for really everyone. Anyone who's taking on their happiness, anyone who's ready, who knows, like, hey, I'm tired of this blah. I'm tired of this. Like, I want to feel better. Or if you're in the pit and you want to feel better, or if you've been working on transformation for years and you know that you're just wavering through, you forget, right? And you want that reminder. So I wanted it there for everyone.
Thank you. That level of thoughtfulness and kindness and love and compassion is really incredible. So I appreciate that you're intentional in creating it in that way.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Follow Cheri, get your happiness habit going. I am a psychic who helps people in business who understands business. And what I can tell you is if there are 5 things or 6 things that you're considering doing in your business and you wish you knew which ones not to do, together we can tune in and eradicate 3 to 5 of those. So you only have 1 or 2 things to focus on. Imagine the massive amount of time and energy and wondering this could save you. If you could just commit to the thing because you know that this is what's totally aligned with you and your business right now and this time, that moves you forward. That gives you so much action to pour into your business. Now, if you listen, there's a playlist. You can look at other sessions that clients have had, and you'll notice time and time again, they get 1 to 2 to 3 specific areas that are green lights for them to work on in their business. Things that they can really focus on that are definitely going to help them. Occasionally, they also get the clarity on don't do these other things. It's not going to work for you. It's not in your best interest right now. And how beautiful is it in this time and world of so many choices, so many options, to already have it narrowed down to these are things to focus on. These are things that are not going to work for you. and to have that extra bit of confidence, that stamp of approval saying, this also feels internally aligned. So not only are you thinking it, but this is what I'm reading from your energy field, from spirit, from the infinite field of possibilities that is maximally aligned for your potential. That's what makes life and business so much fun. So I am really looking forward to our first session together. May it be the first of many. Go ahead. There's the booking link below. See you soon.